Hey y'all, what's going on? This is Pastor Brandon McCullen. This is actually my second video that I'm going to post. I'm going to call this channel, I'm going to keep the title the same, but I'm going to call this first video that I'm going to post, really the second video, but it's the first one. I'm going to actually tell the story about how I lost my wife to a lifelong battle of heart disease. I'm going to call this video Chronicles of a Widowed Pastor. This is what a lot of these videos are going to be called. So I'm going to bring in here, I'm a widower. When we first started this channel, the first video we did was earlier this year, probably around February, something like that, of 2023, this year. And we did that to encourage married couples. So initially, I thought that the journey of this ministry was going to be for us to do a channel on marriage and to encourage married people. And I'll still do that quite a bit on this channel because we were married and we had a successful marriage. Now, it wasn't without challenges like most marriages are. At one time, it had gotten really, really bad because we were a blended family. So we had our differences. If you go back and watch the video we did on blended families. And I talked, she and we talked about that. That's on this channel about navigating through blended families. But I'm going to tell the story. It's going to be my first video about what led up to my wife passing away November 16th of 2023, which was not even a month ago. First of all, being in this house, it's kind of quiet in here. It's different. It's different being in a quiet house, but God is still God. And one thing about even when we face challenges, we serve a sovereign God. We serve a mighty God, great God, who loves us with all his heart and God's plans. He says in Jeremiah 29:11, I know the thoughts or the plans that I have for you. Those plans are not of evil, but are of good, to give you a hope and a future. So here goes. So my wife was actually born with a rare heart condition known as transposition of the great arteries. There are very, very small percentage of people who live past 20 years old with this condition. Actually not knowing at the time, the doctors made a mistake during her birth. That what they could have done was keep her at the hospital, and they could have reversed the condition. So what happens is this. I'm not a scientist, but to the best of my knowledge, I'm gonna explain this. So in other words, the aorta so you have the ventricle, the left and right ventricle, and the aorta. Instead of being on the left side, they're on the right side, or instead of being on the right side, on the left. But they're transposed. So the heart has to work harder because the blood is coming from the wrong artery. So these arteries, it's a birth defect. These arteries are on the wrong side of the heart. And so it didn't start to show up in her until she was, it wasn't detected till after she had her first child. My wife and I, we were a blended family. So when we got married, my wife had 4 children. I had 2 children from my previous marriage. And so we came together. We became the Black Brady Bunch, so to speak. So my wife, she was born with this condition. So after she had her first child, the doctors told her not to have any more children. They said it wouldn't be wise for her to have more children. But she had more children, and God had a plan and a purpose for those children. And so by the grace of God, my wonderful 4 stepchildren or bonus children were born into this world. But as she had more children, her condition became progressively worse. And so much so to the point that she was put on all different types of medications and had to have a pacemaker put in her heart. She was on blood thinners, on fluid pills, on all kinds of it came out to it's like she had to when we first got married, my wife, the doctor, actually before we got married, we went to the doctor, we were engaged, went to go see the cardiologist at Vanderbilt University. We're in Nashville, Tennessee. went to Vanderbilt, they told her that to save her life, that she was going to have a valve replacement. Now, ultimately, we were told that the only way for her to have a longer lasting life was that she was going to have to undergo a heart transplant, which she did not want to do. And because the truth of the matter is, those surgeries are risky. We prayed about it. We didn't feel like God was leading us to do that. But we were open to it, but we weren't on board with it initially. And I'll get to that a little later on. And so she, went to have her heart valve replaced. So they put in a mechanical valve because the other one was leaking. So they put the mechanical valve in, had that operation that came out. God brought her out of that great. But up until she died, when you hear the heart, you could hear it tick, 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 tick. I mean, it was fascinating because you could hear it because it was a mechanical, it was an iron, it was made out of metal. So you could hear it sounded like metal, like a clicking, ticking, like a clock ticking almost. So she got through that surgery. A couple of years went by. My wife started to have all kinds of complications, breathing because of the fluid that built up on her, it was building up in her lungs. Because when you have any kind of congestive heart failure, any kind of heart failure for that matter, the heart, because the oxygen is not getting to the lung, is not pumping the blood properly, so the heart starts to extract fluid, and the fluid fills up the lungs, and it got to the point to where she couldn't barely walk very long distances without getting short of breath and all of those things. So the last month of her life, we were probably in and out of the hospital probably 5 times, I would say, from middle of October till mid-November, probably 5, 6, maybe even 7 times, just in and out of the hospital. Sometimes it just be for a few hours and go home. Sometimes they had to keep her overnight, keep her 4 or 5 days. And what was happening was her heart was going into, to complete failure. Her blood pressure usually ran about 7. Y'all know that normal is about 125 over 70. Her blood pressure was running about 70 over 50 because the fluid pills were actually given to her. She was actually given pills to raise her blood pressure, and then she was getting pills to take the fluid out. So it was like all the medicines were really pretty much counteracting themselves. Plus the blood thinners, because the new heart valve, the blood had to be thin in order for the new heart valve to work. There's just all these medications that she was on, and had to have take this stuff called warfarin, and a lot of things that I knew nothing about. I just from being with her all these years, I started to learn more about what the INR was and all these. You can look some of these up. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all of the things. I do know the very necessities, because of the doctor visits, because most of the doctor visits I was there with her, going in and out of hospitals. Usually when my wife would get sick, I usually could get to her. I could get her home. I could get her to the hospital. But this particular day, this is on November 16th, 2023, I was stuck in traffic. Those of y'all live in Nashville, y'all know I-65 has the worst traffic probably on the planet. I'll put it up against Atlanta and LA any day. But I-65 was stuck on I-65, trying to get her to the hospital, but I couldn't get there. I get a call. My daughter is frantic, saying that my wife had fallen out right here in the living room here, that she, was not responsive. But I could hear my wife as she was having a heart attack. I could hear her screaming. And by the time the paramedics arrived, she was completely unconscious. And they began to perform CPR on her right there in the living room and trying to revive her. They at least got her heart back started. She had some oxygen, but she still was not conscious. And so I figured out that it was easier for me to go straight to the hospital that they were taking her to, than to, come all the way home. Because by the time I got here, she'd be gone, and I was already closer to the hospital. I was about 1 exit down from the hospital she was at. I got there before she arrived. So I get to the hospital. She hasn't arrived yet. And when I get there, I'm talking to the nurse. Talking at the station. And the registration. They said that she hadn't even arrived yet. So I'm waiting. I'm frantic. I'm spacing. I'm calling my church members. Of course, I'm the pastor. I'm calling church members, telling everybody to pray. I don't know what's going on. Call close friends, siblings, like, y'all pray. We don't know what's going on. The time she gets there, they call me to the front. The doctors, one of the head physicians is there. I think he's like maybe over the department. I come in there, he's like, asking me all these questions about medication and different things. And then the actual doctor that's actually performing the procedure on my wife asked me, and he's just very candid with me, saying, "This looks bad, Mr. McCullum. We're not sure that she's going to make it." And at this point, my emotions are just all over the place. Like, I don't know what to think. Just my mind is racing. And just all I could do is pray and just try to process it, take it all in. So he asked me, do I want to go in there and be with her? I said, absolutely. But I had no idea what I was preparing myself for. And I got in there, and all I could see was, the chest compressions. And, they're just, just going and going and going and going. And the whole process probably only lasted about 15 minutes, but it felt like it was about an hour. And I remember when I got in there, I could barely stand because I was just so out of it. Like, I was just so devastated. I couldn't believe this was happening. And just, I knew she was sick. I always knew this was, because the doctors told us the situation was very serious. We had decided to get on the donors list and to have the heart transplant. We had made that decision, and but it just looked really, really, really scary. But we were just hanging on to God's promises and whatever the Lord wanted, and we were just trusting God. And my wife was such a fighter. Most people didn't even know she was sick. She was only 38. She didn't look sick, didn't look like she had anything going on. Unless you lived with her, unless you were close to our family, you had no idea that she was dealing with this condition. So they're just, I'm holding her hand, I'm praying with her. I'm saying, come on, baby, keep fighting. We're going to get through this. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep fighting. And I could just, as I'm holding her hand, I could just, I could see it's almost like a big glow that I could see. And I believe that was the presence of God. I believe that God's angels, I think God showed up in the room to take her at that moment. But I could feel a presence. It's hard to describe it. But now looking back in retrospect, I could see even all the things that my wife was doing leading up to her passing, the way she was like, I was like, she had her own way of getting all of us prepared, the children, myself, the church, all these things. You can see all the signs when you look back on all the things that she was saying, the things that was going on, and all the things leading up to that, some things she told me. And it just, you could see in retrospect. So I'm holding her hand, and finally, I could see they were getting to the end. I could see that they weren't making any progress, and the doctor was doing all he could do. And I told the doctor, I prayed about, I said, if God wants to take her, I might have tears rolling down my eyes. Because I could see at this point there was really nothing else they could do. And I think they were just out of respect for me being there. They were trying to, just hold on as long as they could. And he says, I'm going to try one more method, more medication I'm going to give her. And I could just see them just fighting. And I'm holding her hand the whole time, and I could see that there was no progress. And for a little while, it looked like things were getting better. And I could see like the zigzag things, whatever that thing's called. Like it looked like the vital signs. And it looked like it was like they said, we got a pulse, we got a pulse. So I'm continuing to pray. I'm praying in the spirit. I'm fighting. But then they something in some way they was explaining to me that it's not what I thought or whatever the case was. I can't really put out because I was so in the moment. And I had that conversation with the doctor, and I could see that they had administered the last medication to restart her heart. And finally, they called the time. I'm sorry, y'all. Nothing Nothing in my life could have prepared me for what I saw. When they removed the oxygen machine, and I saw my wife's lifeless body just fall back, and eyes roll in the back of her head. They called the time. And just like that, it was over. She was resting in the arms of Jesus. My wife of nearly 3 years, 4 years we've been together, 6 years we've known each other, was gone from me. And in that instant, I was my purpose partner, my best friend, my confidant, somebody I'd come home to talk about everything. We were planning ministry. We was planning to buy a house. We had moved to a new city so we could be closer to the ministry. We were getting ready to open up another church, getting ready to plant another church. We were meeting people, connections, doing conferences, and just so much purpose. I had a new album I'm working on because I'm a gospel recording artist as well as a pastor and author and all those other things. And she was my biggest support, and we had it. I was pushing her. She was in nursing school. I'm working on my master's. We just had so many goals. And I couldn't understand in that moment how God could take her from me. I said, Lord, and I thought about what Job said. What he said. He knows the ways that I take. But when he has tried me, I shall come forth as gold. I don't know what God is doing in this season. And I trust that he knows what's best. And the one blessed hope that I have is that she's with Christ. Doesn't have to suffer no more. Doesn't have to go to those doctor visits no more. No more of that medication. She's free. She's at peace. But now here I am, alone. I have to pray, and I've been praying, Lord, what's next? I'm in a good place spiritually. I'm receiving counseling. I took a few weeks off from my church. And I want to encourage pastors, if you ever go through something like this, get some counseling. I don't care if it's a divorce. I don't care if it's a loss of a child, loss of a spouse. Get some help. And I think sometimes as pastors, we want to help everybody else. But God wants us whole and healed. And I know this grief process, I'm not rushing it, I'm taking my time, but I want to tell you something. God has given me supernatural grace because my wife died the way she lived. And she was a giver. She loved me, she pushed me, she motivated me. Nothing more but made her happy than to see me continue. I got some new music I'm about to release. I'm going to write her book. It was prophesied to her that she would release a book. I'm going to write her book. I'm going to talk more about that in another video, but I've got that going on. We're moving forward as a church. I've got some things. I'm going to open up a foundation to help heart patients do things in her name to help further research of transposition of the great arteries and people that suffer from heart disease and different things of that nature. I want to partner with some things. I'm probably going to run a marathon for the Heart Foundation. I got so many things I want to do, so many things to keep her legacy and her name going on. Y'all pray for our children, especially those that her biological children. We have 4 beautiful children that, that were her biological children. I was very blessed to be the bonus dad, and 2 of them still live here with me for a season. And I ask all that you all please pray for us as a family and as a church, and that God will keep me and sustain me. And this YouTube channel is really therapeutic for me, and I believe it's going to be a blessing to those who watch it. And I'm excited about the future. I'm going to always miss her. There's always going to be a place in my heart for her because she was irreplaceable, special woman. If y'all watch the 2 videos we did together, you'll pick that up quick. Everybody said they met her. They felt like they knew her a lifetime. They if you met her, she loved on you. She was a pastor's wife in every sense of the word, and she was a inspirer. She was a great mentor to young women. She was a conference leader, women's leader, all that stuff. She was just great at it, and she had my back. I mean, we had our problems in our marriage. Another video I'll talk about when she and I separated for a season, and how God brought us back together, and how I'm grateful that God did what he did, because it all worked out for his purpose. Romans 8:28 says, as I'm closing, and we know that all things work together for the good of them that love God and who are the called according to his purpose. And that was an embodiment of that. Thank y'all so much for being a part of this YouTube channel. I'm going to take you on a fun and exciting journey here with me in my home as I chronicle this journey, as God gives me grace and the Holy Spirit permits. All right, y'all. It's Pastor Brandon. Y'all be blessed. Y'all have a good one. I'm out.